I'm here with L the Alchemist. He's a musician, magician, and some other things, I'm sure. Um,
Okay.
and and his mystical, well, L the Alchemist is that's the exact name of your channel, right?
Yeah, yeah. So it's kind of just both. It's both a musician and then explanations about it, and all that fun, all the good stuff.
And for this, and in Lzwvmmh, my mystical language, his name again is Lzwvmmh, and perhaps another dialect. Gusv alpha says zev mugger aunt nev muz gusv ul fu says zev mugger und nev muz. And some of that, I guess, at some point I may figure out what it means. One guy, one guy I interviewed, it was not my intention at all. His name contains the word for hell, um,
hmm
which
Like, is that basically the angelic name, or is that just like another name for for my spirit, or what is that?
that's yeah, yeah. Are you familiar with the nine gates?
Uh,
Um,
it matter. I've heard the nine gates to the underworld, like the whole story with Inanna. And then there's
well,
the nine gatekeepers I know about, but that's about all I know.
well, yeah, the nine gatekeeper thing varies per society. As I said in what I now, if you send me a link, I'll include that in the channels I appear on list.
Awesome.
But the it's like the cosmology that I mentioned in my spring equinox right this year and others. That's another system of nine because the seven arch and then the agent and then the universal. So you have those nine, but what you're more familiar with, I guess, to give it a different order, you would have Lucifer, Lucifuge, Satan, Beelzebub, Baal, Asmodeus, Abaddon, Belial, and Azazel. And you can't tell where I'm pointing, but the other two entry exit spots are
So
the that order.
each nine system. So there's like one for angels now too, and there's since you said there's like nine systems of.
But
Could
I mean as a representative of the body, and so that's a good reason for nine, and it does relate to a lot of different things. So kind of how a person can connect to um, yeah, connect to the themes per se. Like for example, if we rearrange you according to the um, okay, how's how let me see how you're going to be rearranged. Um, Ul Zev Muz Mugger Ont Nuv Sids Gussiv Fu. So to rearrange for that, arrangement of the gatekeepers, because
oh, each one basically makes their own different because like each one you say is a word. It almost makes you think of the Dovahkiin from Skyrim or any of that, saying like its own word for it. But as each different pantheon or whatever lens you put on, you put on this name on it, this and this and this and this, basically, right?
Yeah, it can be rearranged via the cosmological system you're working with. For example, I've if I had appeared on with co-editing again, I had another couple sets worked out, and one of them was, for example, the nine of the Mayan system, or
Oh,
that sort of thing. So the order would be a little bit different. So therefore, you can rearrange the name in accordance with that. But
oh,
the
wow.
parts remain the same per se.
That's
Um,
awesome, man. Actually, that's really awesome. I don't even know how you figured that out, but that's wild. That's
and
wild.
one of the things that you can say with it is inherent in the term vma is basically things are according to your intention. If you see it as psychological, it's psychological. If or physiological, or however you're going to say that, sort of in a mere ideological sort of way of thinking. If you're gonna turn to mythology, is it demonolatry? Is it are you a are you a well, I mean, are you worshiping something? Are you a Karcist? You're trying to control. It's you know kind of in the same categories of evoking and invoking, but a Karcist is different than. And then there's an exorcist. Or so you're referring to cosmology, but you don't believe it. You're not taking its side or whatever. So it's really according to your intention how you work with any of these things. Because as I've said with the chants I've gotten for, they're sort of clusters of meaning.
So it's just a little bit of every. Like, I guess I don't fully know it completely. I just think of different Dovahkiin, like there's different parts that have its different meanings. So whatever lens or whatever you
Well,
work with.
like for example, whenever a person gets one of these names, or the season, or the seasonal pointer, sometimes some other stuff, there'll be the date included.
4/4. Okay.
So that will it will have its lunar dates somewhere in it. Um, or sometimes it's all on a line, day or night, month and year. Sometimes it's scrambled. It just depends. Um,
I do like what you said though about the exorcist being the one who's not having partaken, like, not fully in that, fully in that, fully in that, because that's more where I feel like I walk as a magician, because I'm not walking on this being side, like for like saying, oh, this is my army, and then I'm walking over here, and like there's these colliding battles that go on between people and different dogmas and everything else. I'm more like, there's amazing things within them, and I'm going to walk as respect in every part of them. And I feel like that's why it's like my reason I like my music is because my soul's mission is then to show the world that it exists. And that's what I think is one of the biggest things, just because our culture's too much, everything's 3D, 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 and there's not as much fulfillment. And I feel like spirits are inside of people not feeling fulfilled, and that's what causes them anxiety and worry and just chaos. So I don't know. That's kind of a random off
it's a
track, but
spiritual
that's
battle, but the thing is, it's like you don't go in everywhere and just banish, and it's like, it's like the pentagrams and all that sort of stuff. It's like,
yeah.
okay, you don't have to banish everywhere. And why call up things that you're going to banish anyways? That doesn't seem to make much sense to me. And why go into a place just trying to start a fight? If there's a problem, okay, I've self exorcism is not the only type of exorcism I've done. And it's but you don't just wander around just trying to have spiritual battles, whether it's with people in the room or whatever.
Yeah, you're not, and that's why I do feel like you have to understand the spirit and where it comes from, and like just doing evocation after evocation. If you don't really want to I don't even want to say everlasting, but that, I mean, that's the thing with me. I don't do anything necessarily with a pact. I mean, not yet or anything like that, but I'd rather just work with, and then either go separate ways or stay friends or whatever. But I just don't like feeling like I'm needing to be designated in one system. I'd rather. I mean, that's like when I do any exorcism, I don't come at anything like attackingly. I would rather come as a neutral space, respect, and like if there's a huge battle going on, like it's causing anxiety for someone, or like make it so they can't sleep at night terrors, well then yeah, it has to go. And then you say you're gonna go. And you have that and you state it and command it. And then it's when there's a lot of battle back and forth with the room with you in it. Now I've not had that hardcore in a long time, but like if I when I do that, then it'd be like, well, if this person is more of a left hand person, then you can say have Lucifer come in and help make sure everything is banished. Or if you're in a Christian household, you can call on Saint Michael, and it's just kind of like I'm not done it with anyone that's Hindu, but like there's different ways of exorcism with different cultures, and that just kind of all around just kind of shows like there's different authorities, and the power is inside of you. It's not exactly
Oh
through
yeah,
this thing or that.
that's the thing too. It's like the exorcism that just gets you to shift what authority, what social authority you're turning to, or I have power over you. It's like you're really trying to motivate the person. You're trying to create the change in them, or give them the experience that leads them perchance away. And then, but if that's why it can, people die in exorcisms because people just feel like they have to bully the person into the fact, oh, you better be a good Christian, better be,
Yeah, yeah.
or it's like one of the techniques of exorcism is you don't beat the person, you create something that can feel around them. You may actually, pound the ground around them, but you don't pound them.
Oh, of course not. You don't want to yelling at someone as they're facing through all that stuff, dude. No, I
Oh
like.
yeah, it's like I've seen techniques. Now it works at least as good, if not better. For example, a series that I did once. I have my jinn series, you could say. Uh, and there was a guy I knew a guy who did exorcisms by that, and other people, but people went and did it quiet on their own. It was a little bit different, but yelling at people so loud that you have to have a you have to go somewhere. No, it can't be done in an apartment complex. That's too. You can't do it that quiet. It's like no, no. If you're
Yes,
yelling so loud.
you can't even do the exorcism because you're gonna wake up the people 2 houses down, man. Hey, that's
Um,
funny.
but I might as well start with a couple questions here. What do you think the purpose of life is?
Wow. Okay. Now I definitely see that is every person is different. I feel like for myself, I found fulfillment as well as synchronicities have taken me into the direction of believing that through my music and my actions daily, from just for anyone or anything or whatever my job is, I to bring about great prosperity and love in other people's lives, as well as have my music be seen across the world and people hear my voice to be able to understand the spiritual realm exists. So what I feel like the point is for me to fulfill my mission. Otherwise, it's just to, I guess, exist. I don't think that there's a spiritual for that person's. I need to make them a Christian, or I need to, make myself Jewish. I think it's just overall being great and doing your absolute best and not putting any spirit in a box. So, if that sums it up, if that makes sense, that's good.
Well, things are beyond titles, anyways. It's like if you look at what titles mean, so much of it is much the same, or at least the intention behind the title. Um, you know, and then there's
Yeah,
metaphorical truth too. So what does that mean to you? The
metaphoric truth.
the meaning of life. Is that more or less the same, or is that something a little bit different for you?
I think it all whatever my spirit's called to do and feels like it wants to fulfill, that gives me that, like that extra fulfillment. And when I see the synchronicities, the saying that this is the right thing in the right place, I love that. So the meaning of life is almost being able to just continue to be aware that everything is divine. Honestly, I mean that sounds really kind of blanket, but I mean, that really kind of sums it up. Everything is a magical moment, and so I think it all just, yeah, I would say it's almost like the same thing, because there's metaphors that happen in life and realities, and it's just enjoying it and seeing that there is a purpose behind it. I do not believe that this is just no point. There's definitely a point. That's all. That's the only point I know.
Well, you obviously don't. There's people that are like, well, okay, everything's spiritual because there's a spiritual overlapping or something. But to have a spiritual life, it's a choice, and you got to constantly engage yourself in the consciousness of it. You can't just say, you know, you can, there's a couple verses in the Bhagavad Gita there that you could say before you go to sleep, and then your sleep's given a spiritual thing, or you might just say what comes to your mind or something, then your whole sleep. But you can't just say, well, I slept, it's pretty spiritual. And, well, spiritual isn't whether or not you got a good sleep or not.
Yeah, yeah. Spiritual is, I don't know. I think it's just a feeling of divine purpose. I mean, there's just something inside. Like there's some things I feel like inside that you're told that I don't know, you just feel called and fulfilled. Like there's a job that I'm gonna be able to make more than enough for meets end or whatever, and I know what it feels fulfilled is other things, like where I really am gonna feel it. Like I could half-ass my whole life and live an okay, good life, but if I really want to make it great and feel fulfilled, now that fulfillment, someone can say, is that out of ego or is that out of this or that? And for myself, it's just inside, and
Well, what's wrong with being if ego's just is a structure of psychology? What's so wrong with that? Uh,
yeah, that's true.
but it's like there's a lot of things us people in the West try to come up with. A lot of there is no new age. It's the same stuff. You look ancient India, whatever. The Baha'is tried to do the whole new age thing 100 years before everybody else was doing new age. And it turned out other groups were doing it too back in the 1700s. And 5,000 years ago, people were new agers too. So, I mean, if you're going to use those terminologies, but it's like it's not that you destroy the ego. There's 5 false sort of egos that you can have. So
Yeah.
those things, the ego remains, but there's the liar and everything else, that the liar and the greedy, and what else I really got to get good with my list if I'm going to do my little tiny little speech about that. But
I understand.
but anyways, yeah, But then again, one of the interesting things is you find out that you're not it. Okay, the structure, the body's not it. The structure is the consciousness, not not even the conscious. The mind's not it.
Yeah,
And that's
what is the mind?
the really trippy thing is when you realize yourself as a soul. You believe. I believed I was a soul for. I don't think I ever didn't believe I was a soul. I didn't believe that the body was it or anything like this. But when you experience yourself as that, particularly when it's the first time.
Oh man, have you soul traveled before?
Um, in different ways of speaking. That's
Yeah, I mean,
I guess out of body. Most stuff is psychological, and it's like people that think they're spiritual masters. You don't want to say, you don't want to go up and thank some woman because last night was awesome. It's like end up with a restraining order or something. But
yeah, that's been doing tarot for someone
but
else.
a lot of stuff just. Oh, have you experienced deja vu? This is where this is headed, right? Deja vu. Have you experienced deja
Have
vu?
I experienced deja vu? I can't even say I know what that is. Deja
Well,
vu.
basically, my explanation of deja vu is basically
Oh,
not
deja vu.
you got three types of dreams, and one of them's from yourself, and you process your awake life processes when you're asleep, unless there's something seriously wrong with you. Even compressed, you process it when you're asleep, and obviously you're gonna throughout your day at some point in your life you're gonna be like, I've experienced this. Well, in the dream you did, but you don't quite remember.
Yeah, no, I know. I thought you said something else. I've definitely had deja vu multiple times, and I mean that's when it gets really trippy. Like once you can even get chills during the deja vu moment, but so you're saying you think it's more of you'll have that in a dream, and then you might that you don't remember, and then your waking life that records, or do you think that we
Well,
cite?
you process possibilities, and those possibilities people might call them alternate timelines or whatever, and it's like, and even in our waking life we exist on different levels and we are not conscious of most of it. If you look at the purely physical thing, don't we're not conscious of most of what we're doing at any time. So the shifting of consciousness, yeah, you're aware of this, that, and the other, and sensory deprivation. It's not like your heart and all that stop, but you you know shut some stuff off and pay attention to others. It's not that you blank the mind or something. It's that you're really shifting things.
Mm, wow, that's cool.
Um, well, my question 11 and 12 is basically more or less answered because, how much time do you think could be devoted to spiritual, religious activity or
Oh, like
consciousness?
time each day. Um, I personally I've been doing about 35 minutes a day, about 35, but today particularly, I went an hour, but I have a kind of rotation of things I do. I got the universal circle, so I'll place that out, and then I'll sit on a pillow and listen to like a frequency and just do breathings. Sometimes I bring in the ohms. Sometimes you do sit there and say a few things of gratitude. I can sometimes stand over the circle and walk in a circle because that accumulates energy and use that for something, or do an evocation. But I definitely do something every morning, like as soon as I wake up. So I make sure I start it off my day. And then when I go on runs, that's also a form of meditation for me. Like I don't know what it is, but a lot of aha moments happens on runs.
Oh yeah,
So
you can combine it. Even if you don't have something playing or something, you can definitely combine those. You know, any activity really.
yeah,
It's but you reminded me of something. Uh, the Church of Hermetic Sciences, one of their techniques is, I'm not going to, but I could get out. I'll call it my hairy goat drum, because that's what it is. But I could get around and I could. There's not enough room to properly do that sort of thing inside. But one could circle around pounding the drum and, like, depending
yeah.
on which level you're working at, okay, I'm going to rotate 9 times or 8 times or 7 times or 3 times or whatever. But yeah, I mean, you don't have to play music or any of that, because they definitely get out the chimes. I have chimes too.
Drums are the way they vibrate is actually like same frequency as what the earth vibrates. So that's why drums, like shamans, and they hit drums, that's why it can get you in a trance-like state. It's pretty
Well, it's
wild.
it, it's more of the heart, and some instruments are more of
Yeah.
one on one level or another. But it's like my Lzwvmmh chants, like with like the Gautaya material, that one would say that like a different number of times. It's like what we're in April 1st thereabouts. So wouldn't that make us in number 3? So I don't remember off the top of my head right now, but you could say the Visago chant 3 times, and that would be your key. So that's how I've done that stuff in the past. I pick something and it's like, I'm going to say this number of times because this is this number working. So
Okay, so you just kind of figure out what number correlates with the situation, and then you can kind of.
Yeah, that's the sympathetic magic, the contagious magic sort of way of looking at things. Kind of, it's not necessary per se. You can strip it down beyond that, but it's a useful tool.
Oh yeah, you can get it out, like stopping
Particularly,
some.
particularly when you have extra time to devote to this stuff. It's
Uh,
not like some people's like, life can be a spiritual practice, but occasionally you want to have something formal, something big and long and whatever for.
like meditation, I think meditation's key in all actuality. I know it's regurgitated all the time, but it's the truth. Like if you can't calm yourself, and sometimes that's what I see with myself. Like I should be able to calm myself way quicker and having more consistency. And that meditation does help you have that, but
Yeah,
sometimes.
touch the ground and breathe in such a way to slow the heart in this, or whatever you do.
Yeah, well, yeah, really calm down because I can be energy, 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 but then also there's like a form of grounding. So I don't know. It's definitely about figuring it out, but I think meditation is huge. And then reading into stuff like when I go watch television or anything like that, I do like watching Ancient Aliens, but like different things for information from different occultists and different. I just like gathering information, because it's great to hear everyone's works and people's interpretations and trying to figure it out. Because I think a
Not
part of the
not
fun.
not that I consider Daniken or any of the others actual like gospel truth or anything like that, but it's interesting the information presented. And if you can look at stuff and make different conclusions, Ancient Aliens is a great show. If you're just
Yeah,
gonna if you're gonna take them coming up with a new version of the same information, some of the same information every season, and some of it less than that, some of it more than that, it's really not the show to watch. But
it's deep. It's pretty
yeah,
deep.
it goes into a lot, and that was one of the things when I was little, Joseph Campbell, and that's what started me on my path as much as anything else, and Mercy Elliott and Aleister Crowley, and um, you know that's some of that stuff. But the ancient aliens theorists, as they call themselves, I'm not
Yeah,
sure the time you can.
that's so
I'm not
funny.
sure half the time that word's appropriate for what they're doing, but the but the thing is they just present a lot of interesting information, and you just got and it gets you to think.
Oh, it gets you to think, and then it gets you to do research on your own even more. Like, I mean,
And
that was. I was
once you
just.
once you realize the spiritual and psychological stuff that they're denying through their ancient aliens, you know, it's
Yeah.
it's it hits you like it's like, and then you realize, oh, I can have those experiences. You start scrying for yourself, and you realize that a lot of these things staring off of ships in the middle of the night, dude, you can have them pretty, when you're and once you start having them, it's pretty easy. You're going to see all these lights and stuff like this and phosphenes, so but
Yeah, really get things summed up. To sum it up. Well, that's,
uh,
I mean, it's crazy.
uh, well, before we get into something else, conspiracies. Do you have any insight on any conspiracies that you think have gone too far, or you know
Too
like
far, I don't.
that you think you like to blow a little bit on? It's like, that's just
Well, you know what? I'll tell you what. I could tell you, I don't know necessarily what to believe of this virus. In all honesty, one part of me is like, is it a cover up for the pedophiles and all the sex trafficking court cases that are supposedly
oh,
supposed to happen
like
to
the
these
fact
people?
like the fact that Oprah, there's more connections between Oprah and these people than Trump. Trump turned in Epstein as soon as he figured out that the guy was not just
One
a
thing.
partier, maybe a pimp or something. He was actually that he would be an actual rapist. Trump turned him in 15 years before he was being prosecuted for it. So I don't think we can blame. Trump.
Well, definitely not. I don't think so.
I do see there's issues with Trump, but it's like there's worse people out there in office right now that you know.
I'd rather get rid of them, and I think it's all part of the plan because there's some pretty nasty people, and I think that this virus could be a cover up in the sense of attention wise, but
Well, um,
also,
well,
uh,
okay, people are dying, but the thing is, it's like the panic could kill 10 times the people that it kills here. It turns out there is a cover up. There's at least 100,000 dead in China, from according to the doctors. And India's a paper in India was reporting that they estimated that over 10 million people died in China, which is understandable. They're saying 2% of the people exposed and half of China. Come on, what does that mean? The number's not a couple thousand. It's in the millions. That's exactly what they're saying, but they're not saying it in a way that most people are going to understand. If you know,
oh, so yeah, there is millions that actually, there is millions that have died, or is it millions that have got it and only 100,000 have died?
no, hundreds of thousands of people were probably exposed in China, and if they're saying 2% die, now that I'm not as sure, but I am pretty sure if the doctors that we see on CNN and stuff come forward and then they get removed from all social media as soon as they say, hey, the numbers are different. 26,000 extra cremated people from Wuhan, 77,000 from this was actually weeks ago that the number they were that one doctor was saying I know of 100,000 deaths. Other doctors were saying some of the same stuff that were right in the thick of it, and they were removed from all social media. Their
So
Twitters
you
and
think it's
everything else.
way worse? It's way worse than what's going on
Well,
right now.
India, the India Times or something like that was saying that it's not just cremations. Look at um, there's reasons from the society itself to say that the number is much higher. And but aside from burning people alive, I think the Chinese handled it right. America leaving everything open. Don't enjoy yourself. Don't attend any spiritual service, but go to work. Oh well, I've been telling people to go to work, but they want okay. Well, what they should do is what China did is shut things down. 5 to 27 days, taken care of. Well, not entirely, but you know what I mean. The symptoms show.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, dude, I work.
Everybody's isolated to their homes. The symptoms show. They can narrow down the quarantines and all this, and um, that's why even if it killed 10 million people in China, they did a better job than we're going to do here. And on top of that, we have a higher incident of AIDS, tuberculosis, Hep C patients. We're not factoring that in when we said 5 to 30 million dead Americans. We're not
Wow.
factoring in the fact that we're looking at 2 years with a reduced food supply, reduced income, all sorts of stuff. The government's not going to take care of us. So, that's what I think the scam is. I think they're trying to use this as a tool to have more people die.
Wow. That's well, dude, I have to go into work every 5 days. No, I mean I work 5 days a week. Yeah, I work in a UPS, so I'm good. I just the mask and washing myself. I just no one wears anything. They don't. They act like there's nothing going on. They act like it's all bullshit. And I'm like, dude, I don't. I just don't know. Like that
Well,
environment.
it's the same stuff. It's like okay, if you know you're being exposed, take an extra vitamin C tablet. If you know you're sick, take a couple. Um, that's probably going to be good enough. It may not be, but it's a lot better defense than waiting for the SARS vaccine is a different thing. You don't want a vaccine for every other thing that
You
can
barely want a vaccine at
actually.
all, honestly.
And they can run a genetic test, and they're doing that, and they're doing that quicker. But we just need to be real on two respects. Is some stuff's out of our control. We need to not suffer in regards to what's not. You know, I know of people who are suffering greatly that have, as far as I know, haven't got it, or maybe they have. Most people, it's like just your typical, if you have a moldy house or allergies or something, you may
Yeah,
not
they
know
can.
that.
That's what I'm
Um,
saying. You don't know, so maybe they have allergies, or now it's not allergies, and That's the thing. It is intense. That's why all I'm doing is I run and I eat healthy and make sure I get those vitamins, because that's all I know I can do. Well, I'm still in the workforce, so part of me is appreciative, and the other part's like not appreciative. But it's all that. I mean, like when
Yeah,
it comes,
if you can't do anything, you can't do anything. You just, most of the people that are going to die of the disease itself are going to be the people who are going to probably die this year or next year or something anyways. Um,
yeah. Plus, I do feel like there's an intent behind the whole thing, and it's more of a wake up call, and it has affect. I mean, it's affected me in the way I've thought about things.
people to wash their hands after going to the bathroom. Really? Really? It takes a plague breaking out. Come on, people.
You're
Um,
right, though. You're right,
you
man.
consider not eat. It's like how many plagues break? It's like I don't know if you've noticed all these Chinese and whatnot people. Not all Chinese people are like this that eat the dirty meats and stuff. They're saying I like to eat cat and dog and rat and bat's good too. We don't want to stop eating bat. Literally, people posting this stuff, and it's like if it's a garbage disposal, if it eats meat, it's probably there's a higher risk of that. And every other plague that's broken out in the past couple hundred years has been because of that. The rest of them have been because of overcrowding of animals and stuff like that. Not so, you know, basically you treat the animals right and you eat the right animals, you're okay. But
Yeah,
we're not
yeah.
we're not going to learn our lesson. If this thing kills 156 million like it could, we're not going to learn our lesson.
You don't
We'll,
think so? You think the human race is going to really, if that kills that many people, they're going to still be like, nah, it's all good. No, dude, they'd have to make a change. Like, we have to make a change.
don't get me wrong. I think some people are going to be guided by this in one way or another. But
Alchemy, man, right there.
I think that the fact is it's like look at what happened 10 years ago. We had what 400 something thousand people in the world killed by this H1N1, and they
Yeah.
really it really pushed it big. You got to eat even more pork. Swine flu? No, 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 no. Forget that stuff. Uh, so you know,
They didn't close down schools for H1N1, though. They shut.
it killed what 90 something thousand Americans. This one hasn't killed that yet. Um, the regular
Oh,
flu kills over 10,000 a month during some months.
dude, that's wild. That's wild so many people die, but opioids, people die millions, I feel like, daily from
Well,
overdose opioids.
it's the long term damage. It's like, for example, the adulterants when people use heroin are going to kill you in about 30 years. So people start when they're a teenager, they're going to die in their 40s on average, um, because the chemicals that they put with it, even without adulterants, is going to eat them alive. You can have so much, well, you can call it pesticide added to it that this stuff can be, you overdose not from heroin, from pesticides. You overdose from MAM,
Oh,
or hexacylated morphine or something like that. People die from that a lot more than they die from heroin if you actually look at the numbers. Your average heroin overdose is like methadone's in the system. Methadone's more dangerous, but methadone tends to be in overdose deaths, Suboxone and stuff like that too. So nowadays, most of your overdose deaths from heroin are from the treatment. The treatment they couldn't handle the both in their system, and even people die from methadone anyways.
oh, so it's just all about the added substance, kind of like adding preservatives to your can of beans or whatever. If you just
It's
get the
like
beans, you're good.
ecstasy. Ecstasy is so bad that you can become permanently depressed from one use. But the fact that it's a street thing, you don't know if you're even getting ecstasy. People use heroin, for example, and they don't know if they're using heroin. uh, you know, but they presume they're going to be using heroin. A
Man,
lot of people, I got bad gear. It's like, okay, they crushed in some time. You may not have got heroin at all. They might have just mixed in a little vinegar with some coffee grounds and Tylenol or something, and you injected that. That's what's what was so bad, man? Um,
God dang, man. That's what that makes me think though. I mean, I've never had any form of ecstasy, but there's some people probably gonna be depressed the rest of their life because they did ecstasy once in their life. That is crazy. That just blew
I
my mind.
I I know of somebody that's yeah, when they were a teen, I knew them, you know,
Yeah.
years years ago, and it's like that. I thought they were lost ecstasy. They quit ecstasy and they moved on to heroin brown and then meth and which is meth will kill you in 10 years no matter what basically. Um, so you see these people that yeah they spent several years. It's like several years doing that stuff. They don't have they could die in the next decade just being left alone. People don't realize that. It's like, oh, you're still pretty. Some people recover quite well. It's worth quitting at any point whenever you're putting those poisons. It's like
Yeah, definitely.
it's like I took ADHD medication. I was prescribed that, and it's like I did not want to try the version with battery acid and brake fluid. You know,
Yeah, dude, I had to take it too, and I ended up saying I was taking it, but throwing it away because it made me not feel like I could be myself, man. It made me feel like, ugh.
uh, it, it was like you know how the TV static, even the digital channels, there's those static moments where it's like that's kind of what life is in parts when you're on that stuff. And it's but you can feel super powerful, and it's great if you end up having to fight or something. you know I'm a roll.
Yeah, well,
Well,
that means you have to
yeah,
just train.
I was big. They had me on a Telenol or something. That's how I wallop those five people at the same time. But
He
then
went
again,
super
it's like
fast.
you don't know what you did. You black out and all this other stuff. It's like, yeah, I don't want to try this with adulterants and made in bathtubs and stuff. No, no
Hell no.
way.
Hell no. It's already crazy enough. And that's why,
But
so you don't get an
the
acid or something. That might
the
be
interest
lazy.
the interesting thing with some of these things though is like your brain and your body has it all. you know you're in the hospital. If you've ever been in the hospital and you got surgery and they give you just a little bit too much and it's like, and then you're like out, but then you don't know if you're died or something too, so it's like
Yeah, because then you wake up and you're like, holy shit, and then you
uh,
fall asleep, and then you
but
transport somewhere.
you can be like it's like in Sufi gatherings when you hold hands and all that sort of stuff. It's like, but when you get used to it, when you swoon, you don't fall. You can stay. You can keep doing what you're doing. You can even lead the ritual and swoon in the middle of it and all that. But you can fall down. You straight up fall down if you kind of um,
Try to
haven't
have too much
prepared yourself.
control.
If it's not part of the technique, like getting up and down and going through positions and that sort of thing. Um, so you know there's methods to things. It's like self crucifixion rites. You you know that's not something to mess around with if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, I want to. You even
Even
saying
if you're
that, I'm
even if
like,
you're even if you're only holding the brass rings, if you're holding the brass rings, and you're like, even that, you got don't do that alone out where no one's going to find you, because you go into shock and you're stuck grabbing those things. You could die in the afternoon out.
just by making a tea. Holy smokes, man, that's crazy. I've never heard. I've actually never. I've heard the self deification, right? I've heard that, but I've never heard of like a not self sacrifice. Whatever you just said, I've never heard that before. That's crazy. I don't
Well,
know. Besides
that
becoming,
general principles behind a bunch of things. In a way, that's what I did that's what I did the other week. Is I mean, I didn't build a cross and hang myself up on it for Easter or something like that, but
he did it.
in a way, I did set forth a cross, and I did, this, you know, I'm I'm on this, um, sort of a form I got in a dream. I shared that dream, but um, yeah, that's one of the things is you become the Nexion, you know, and you got to sometimes be willing to sacrifice, but it's not per se a sadomasochistic or you have to,
Yeah, I feel like it's more of a letting go and letting what needs to be done, kind of in that kind of way. But yeah, that's crazy. I mean, I think the only thing I've ever done like that is kind of what you were talking about earlier, kind of self exorcism, where like you get your body, whether salt bath or some spiritual, whatever it is for each individual. I know everyone's different and all that, but like just cleansing yourself of all the attachments and everything else that you have, and just like letting all that shit go. That's always wonderful to do. But you can, if you start, having like this spirit and that spirit gateway open, and you're not engaging or this or that, the other, that can also kind of, I wouldn't call it an exorcism. I would just call it wrapping up old business. Wrapping up old business. Yeah.
The uh, is there anything you feel that should be done weekly or something else occasionally, spiritual practice wise? Do you have any ideas that
Yeah, I would definitely get a salt bath in at least once every 2 months, or I mean, something with that. Using a cold water during your shower is also a great form of cleansing and exorcism of your energy and all that. And Robert Bruce, which if anyone wants to look into him, he knows a lot about getting rid of nags, negative spirits, and all that. And water running over you is a great form of exorcism. But like cold water is even more because it's energy and it goes to the depth of it. And just being
look
ice cold water.
look at every supposable religion revelation based system in terms of not right hand path or left hand path, sort of between is really where that sort of all lies. But the water, uh, in the Bhagavatam, you have the who was it that touched the water? Touched the water quick, and the ill visions and whatnot cleared itself. Um, some people, you know, some people, instead of, you could sprinkle not the metaphorical bath salts, but you sprinkle bath salts on yourself after the shower, and that can accomplish much the same as a salt bath. And I found that, so I do
Oh
that a lot
wow.
more actually.
I didn't
Because
know that. That's pretty cool, man.
is
That's
yeah, just a little thing,
Yeah. Oh, one of these I got a little spray bottle too. I like burning it though. I'd rather use my plate where I don't know where that sits over there, or Palo Santos. I like burning sage, burning Palo Santos. Palo Santos is really intense. But doing that, I like doing it like once a month at least. Now in my room, I make sure, obviously, I got the universal circle for the communication things be better, but I like to clean my room of any energies that might make me just not be able to sleep. Not in a bad way, but sometimes high caliber energies, dude, can just make you be like, wow, I can't sleep. So,
well, you
uh,
definitely want to be in charge. It's like, okay, it's like, for example, that's one of the things I guess I got to do in my location that I haven't done. I did so much of rounds and path working and all that okay, yeah, I do the Nokian stuff, but I haven't done the variety of stuff. Well, okay, yeah, I have, but I haven't really done anything formal. Although I don't feel like I have to exercise or whatnot, whatever. I've been able to change um, the other room that I'm renting. I've been able to change the energy per se in there. Um,
yeah,
but
yeah.
you go. It's nice to kind of have the time to kind of place it within your kingdom per se. Not to say that, oh, it's like, if you have to live with family or something, that you it's like, I am in charge now. I've done, this is like, um
Oh
that
yeah. I mean
other
that's
people that go through spaces. It's
exactly.
like,
That's why I like to make it so it's designated, wherever everything with the light touches the red light. it's a visualization. That's where things can come, and like things know that, as well as having a universal circle. That's why I
Well,
feel like
that's why people use the well, I have a red light right in the one room too.
red light.
The people, that's why people use heavy layers of smoke. Me, I just like to use smoke to wipe the room per se. Um, Not that I'm trying to, you know, reduce my breathing or something because I'm filling the place with so much smoke, or that I'm hotboxing it with marijuana or something. You know, that's not my intention. But
Yeah, so I would just saying, just cleansing yourself, cleansing your space, and if you can do the whole space wherever you live at, I've the family, and I make sure you guys are doing this. So I'll just clean your space, clean that, and then meditation. That would be the greatest thing I could tell you to do, to really help your own self out. Oh,
and I definitely say for people doing like seasonals and stuff like this, it's best to do some. Don't just invert church tradition. You want to find out, is this really the solstice or the equinox or the point in between? Or is the is the uh, is the eclipse really on this day? Or doing an eclipse ritual 2 days after? Okay, but
yeah, if you want to do it on the eclipse and make sure it's the eclipse.
it's like where did you have you been in the presence of a total eclipse?
I don't. I know there's one day I heard that there was an eclipse and I went outside. Is that where the moon's in front of the sun and then it's
Yeah,
still daytime?
it's a narrow band. It's really like
25
20
minutes?
miles
Yeah.
or something like that across or something like that. But I was in the middle of it, and it's like there's sunset in every direction, and the camera doesn't capture entirely what you can see looking up and seeing, because you know the sun's covered, and all these little, you see the little part moons as it covers in the shadows everywhere, and the shadows become the blurriness of shadows. It becomes kind of, that kind of goes away for a second. It's like something turned the contrast, been playing with the contrast button, and it gives people headaches for weeks. It actually causes a disruption in the field enough to. And oh yeah, I was floored with the headache that after all that. But
Dude, it was a work day actually, and people had the glasses where they could go out there and look. And I remember going out there and grabbing glasses and I looked at it. As soon as you explained what that was, I remember that's what it was. A couple of years ago we had one. I
and in the
recall.
80s, I remember in the 80s too. There was a, but I wasn't in the total eclipse. I was in the partial. Almost everybody's in the partial, so you go and see the partial. But the total,
Oh, yeah, I might not
total,
have been the total, dude. Oh, that would be wild.
because it's like, it looks like every single direction sunset or sunrise. That's what it looks like 360.
Dude, that's weird. So are we in a global? Are we a globe, or are we so flat Earth?
And it's the temperature drops too, which is too. It's like, also it's like in the hot part of the afternoon. It was where I was, and yeah, you feel a chill because
Yeah, the sun's not heading
uh,
there. Yeah,
sun's not headed there, and by the time you witness it, it's actually caused a change. The temperature drops 10 degrees or something. I don't know what it actually dropped, but that's what it kind of felt like. Um,
that's so cool. Damn, I want to do that within my lifetime for sure. Hopefully, there's another one 30 years from now.
um, like I think in like 4 years or something like that, there's going to be another one, and it actually hits the same place. There's one place where it hits one area where it hits twice. The last one, 2017, the 2024 one or something like that's going to hit there too. Um, so those people are actually. Oh well, with all this going on, I don't know what's going to go on, but or another thing that's going to happen. Um, we don't know that the sea level is not going to go up anytime soon, significantly enough to kill off most people. 10 feet, 10, 20 feet, is all it's going to take to do that, actually. Yellowstone's earthquake, place the size of Chicago moving up and down 7 inches. Well, I mean, not all in one day, but it's, that thing's doing more than any volcano's ever done without going off. So who knows?
Wow. Well, every day we gotta take gratitude, man. We're still here.
But the people worrying about the Illuminati, they don't know what the Illuminati is. Almost none of them actually know what the Illuminati is that are saying these claims. William Guy Carr, back in the 50s, some preacher wanted to scare everybody, so he combined the Illuminati and the Freemasons and the Bilderberg Group and all sorts of things in some one giant boogeyman sort of thing, in a way that obviously wasn't true about any of them. But there are clubs up in Virginia, I think, is a place that if you spend $1 million a year, you can be a member.
Oh, geez, Louise! Wow.
You get a hobnob with heads of state and whatnot, but it's like, you don't lick the right butthole at a Hollywood party and then you join. Then you're rich and famous Illuminati. The Illuminati, first of all, it's dead. Second of all, there are groups powerful somewhat like that, but they're not. They're the rich and powerful to begin with. They're reinforcing their power.
Yeah, they're reinforcing their power, and everything else can be.
Most a lot of presidents don't even get invited to these parties. That's what, But yeah. You sit down with people. It's like, and then it's like, oh, those are the same people that you turn on the TV. It's not the president that's in charge of stuff. It's, George Soros and some other people like that. That control.
It's a networks. It's a networks.
There's individuals that control trillions of dollars a year in tax dollars. They're only listed as billionaires, but they control trillions of dollars a year in tax dollars. They control large parts of the government in multiple places. You can find huge links to all sorts of people. It's like, but the thing is, it's like, that's not really something you can do something about. You can actually maybe influence some people not to be part of supporting certain government ideas or something, but it's out of your control.
Till the truth comes out about it all. I mean, that's possible. I don't know, man. Besides, I guess being
I certainly
more aware.
The people who made all those kids disappear under the Obama administration, I hope if they can actually pull those people to justice that made hundreds of detained immigrants disappear in the administration that detained the most out of any administration. Bring them to justice, bring them down. But if we can't do something, we can't do something. And you got to be careful about judging. It's like people make up all these theories about. Well, first of all, they don't know what a Luciferian is in the first place. Thank you very much. But people have all. My first published article was refuting people like Alex Jones and Mark Dice and stuff like this, that they knew better. They had the same book that I proved them wrong in. They had the same book. These people said Pat Watson, who's that other guy, but they had the same book, so they knew better too. But they didn't say that way. They wanted to promote all this fear and stuff.
Oh wow! So they're kind of a part of the whole agenda in a sense. Damn.
But you can tie it back to the Illuminati didn't want this superstitious monarchical top-down church control. They didn't want to be part of that, and they were a very powerful organization and were put down just for that. And now and them and the Freemasons helped make America what it is. Helped make a lot of countries what they are because they wanted more autonomy for the people.
Damn, that's crazy.
I do believe there are people with spiritual connections, and maybe they should be in certain positions. But the idea, this ultra conservative thing is not serving us.
Yeah, I just know there's people in different industries that use different spiritual things. And I'm not saying the spiritual things are good or bad. I'm just saying they're using it.
like the logos. Is it NBC that uses the Yazidi peacock, or is it CBS?
Oh, the peacock. Oh, I know what you're saying. I feel like it's ABC. I think so with the gold. Yeah, the peacock.
And I think it's NBC. It's not ABC. It's not CBS. Is like that eye thing.
Yeah, typical.
But they're all these symbols that people are using, and like, yeah, and even you turn on the TV preachers, and they're speaking in tongues, but they're actually reciting litanies of demons and spells sometimes, and literally it's like, but they're pushing it off as something else. But I have literally thumbed through the channel, flipped through the channels, is a more proper way to say it, I guess, and found, yeah, there's stuff going on, but it's like, it's not me, you know.
Yeah, it's not you, but you
And
see it and
I'm
feel.
not worried about that. It's like, fine, pray that I return to the church. That's fine. And I don't feel like I have to. I literally I literally went to a couple churches just to make videos to defend what people say against them. You know, um, not like was saying that their whole package or something, but literally, um,
There is greatness that can happen with it. I mean, it helped me through some tough times in my life, but it also showed me lots of people don't like to dive that much deeper into, even you talk about spirituality or whatever, like some people just they don't go deep enough, and they're very judgmental, and it's just for a word. But there are some things I was able to get valued and gave me hope during a time where I didn't have anything else to hold on to. So that's why it's like I don't want to shoot it down, but I also don't want them to shove it in my face saying, have this, or like, oh, you're gonna go to hell for doing this and that. Like, I don't care to have that dogma pushed on me. But that's just how people are. I mean, there's some people I know that I already know as soon as I really start opening up about certain things, and it just becomes judgmental, this, that, and the other, and I just don't care about that. But you're right.
yeah, yay, nay, and okay, that does happen, but it's like, yeah, it becomes too much, and especially it's like, if you're trying to count your trees in paradise and all that sort of stuff, it's like, okay, maybe some of this stuff, but the thing is, it's like, isn't that stuff supposed to be pointing towards what's better to do and what's not better to do, rather than trying to figure out, oh, you're going to be, you get this many trees and this many virgins, and what else and this many planets, and
Yeah, I mean that's crazy. I mean that's the truth, though. I mean Mormons like everything just tries to say what's going to go on beyond versus just living in the now and knowing thyself. That's the thing about Lucifer I really do appreciate is that whole know thyself. I know it's repetitive as can be, but like once you really start to understand your spirit and yourself and light, because like not all light is just light fluffy. It's like it can be destructive. So much light,
well,
and through the
look at what happened. Look at what happened to Buddha and all sorts of these figures that they kind of lost some of the thing. It's like Rumi and Shamsuddin. Shamsuddin went to Rumi, and he said, "Who is greater, Bazayed or what was that guy's name?" But anyways, there was some poet that said some basically crazy sounding stuff, and basically Muhammad, not there were other reasons too, but basically the answer in this time, because you do got to speak to your audience. The answer was because Muhammad didn't say, "Oh, I've achieved my great pinnacle. I've had these awesome visions and stuff." And no, somebody who kept acting and trying to be the best he could in every moment for the rest of his life. That's what made him better. And that's I guess a pretty standard way that it would have been described. But somebody who's just going to have such an awesome vision and sit down and say, "Oh, that's it," and it's like, well, a lot of those people could have accomplished a lot of great things if they did more than just, well, I've shared this awesome dream I had. I'm going to just leave it at that. And,
Yeah, I know. That's the thing. You have to take action. And it's like when you say, "What do I think the meaning of life is?" I can't tell anyone what theirs is, but I can tell them what mine is. And by me doing mine, it's going to affect everyone else's. So Well, that's all you can do is just live.
Well, everyone has a choice, even if you have a firm belief that's sort of, you say that this would be the best for everybody or something. There's still psychological types. There's a material culture to apply it to, and the fact of the matter is, it's a choice. Look at what happened with Tibetan Buddhism. What was the type of Buddhism? The type of Buddhism that came into the area, and the Bon faith, I think that's how you say it, Bon, got merged to such an extent that in a lot of respects, not even the scholars know the difference between one and the other, or what even they looked apart, what they looked like before. Christianity has so many saints because it tried to,
cover up all the names of some gods.
Go around forcing itself on others until the point where you had it renamed what were considered the gods and goddesses of other cultures as saints. So much,
Exactly.
A couple months ago, you had the Bridget holiday, and it's like, but that's pre-Christian, so
I know, and that's what I'm saying. Like, Catholicism taught me a lot.
We're not going to celebrate Samhain. We're going to do Halloween the week before.
No, you're right. You're totally right. That's one of the best ones there is, man. They all dress up. That's crazy, though. I mean, when you really dissect things deeper, though, and then you explain that depth, if they're programming, well, if it will override their programming, then they deny it and it causes issues. And even that right there, like saying the things about the saints and all that, like, that can blow someone's mind. Because, like, there's spirits that they have changed them into.
People, at the very least, even if you disagree with the beliefs and practices associated with this, there's stuff you can do with it. I certainly don't think I need to, what Crowley did with the 10th author in the Enochian system. I don't want to repeat that. I'll say the call. I'll even if somebody wants to do that ritual with me, I may, decide to actually physically in person do the ritual with them, but not the Crowley ritual. No, if you know what I'm talking about, there's a couple things about that I'm not doing. Thank you very much.
I don't know fully, but I can only imagine, dude. I can only imagine.
Well, something mentioned. Have you ever had an experience where it seemed like you left the body and you went down?
No, I've not had anything like that. That's why I kind of wanted to get the soul travel course, just because I've never. Everything has been all within my body. I've tried to use deprivation tanks and other things, but I've never had that. No. What about you? Have you? Yeah, those moments.
Well, I asked that one specifically because you said something down, and I thought, oh, maybe this guy's had one of these ones too. But yeah, I had an experience like that, and it bewildered me because I did not. I don't think I had ever heard of such a thing. And then as soon as I had the experience, I could find out that someone else had the experience, and other people had the experience, and looking into physics, dark matter and dark energy, that you feel like you're being pressed in every direction. That's literally what dark matter does. Dark energy pulls it the other way. So the Yesod, the Yesud, the dot experiences, they're explained through physics. And I think I think people can actually get into a state where they feel it.
Oh wow!
And
yeah.
I've got into both of those states, and I've got, just like I've mentioned about drugs. If I hear of a drug high that I have not experienced, I mean, I don't want to feel like I'm burning on. I've taken medication, and I don't want to feel like I'm burning alive or anything, or not knowing whether I'm alive, feeling like the air is killing me. No, never again. Thank you very much.
Yeah, but spice is no good.
The actual, you can look up on WebMD and see what you're overdosing on. Oh, I'm actually you feel you can feel hypersensitive, and like the floor and everything loves you. It's you can feel these things separately together. You can feel super energetic, and hold for important message after the beep. What? Okay. Somebody just sent me a weird message, but I've given them a nickname which kind of proves that they're weird, which I'm okay with. My school yearbooks, multiple of them said, basically, you're weird, but that's what we like about you. Don't change that. Um, um, of
Yeah.
course, occasionally it gets you into trouble because women. Sometimes women think this dude's weird. Maybe he's into. No, I'm not into that. No.
Maybe your phone says otherwise, dude.
Yeah,
That's
but yeah, you can experience any sort of. Have you felt what you consider to be divine emotion? I haven't been asked as many questions as I would ask other
definitely.
people.
No, without a doubt. I felt I mean caps, on those of the familiarity of shrooms and all that. When I did those in a legal great place, I was allowed to do them. I that hit a euphoria of it was like a Spider-Man effect to where I almost understood it's like a cosmos spider web because I started understanding how everything interconnected and how all the things really shaped like all the events, how it all like interconnected with the synchronicities and all that, and the deja vu and those type of things. And then it's almost like an omnipresent moment where you're like, oh, everything is divine and fine. And then you kind of see the butterfly effect from your past and then how it's guiding your future. So that to me is what that divine love type of feeling, because it's like the perfect being in the present moment.
And sometimes either as a guide trying to figure out for other people, but sometimes it's like Mercy Elliott's Shamanism Techniques of Ecstasy. That was a important book in my teenage years. I wasn't experimenting as a recreational drug user or something like that, but I do understand that some people have their experiences with drugs, and that gives them the ability to figure it out without the drugs. It may be the catalyst, and it may be the catalyst for other people. I'm sure because I took all those pills growing up that it's given me the ability to figure out here's the sensation I had before. I can do that better because when you take the pills, okay, your pain's relief and all that other stuff, it's even better when it's not feeling like it's forced. Because
Yeah.
the best. Now I didn't like any. There was always, you know, I don't. I'll deal with the headache. I don't want to pay for it for 3 days. The 3 days I don't have a headache to follow it by taking pills all the time and then working my way to sleeping 15 hours a day or something. I don't know. Um, not ever made me depressed or anything, but sleeping that much is you're depressed physically, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely. Big time.
but the thing is that yeah, these it's not the feeling of force. It's not there. Um, but yeah, sometimes you have to have an experience in one way to have it in another. Sometimes there's trauma that people go through, for example, that it propels them to something else that was necessary for them to do. It wasn't that they weren't the victim or anything like that, but it was that you know it did either they atoned for something or it put them in a better position in some regard that they wouldn't have been in.
Yeah,
Um,
they are able to evolve because of it.
it's like yeah, there is a higher incidence of people. Brutalization per se is a choice, no matter how. But you know what the difference between brutalization and victimization?
Victimization, someone thinking that they were getting messed over versus brutal, where it's like they got smashed over. Is that it? That could
Uh,
probably.
well, victimization is wrong was done to you basically, and it wasn't your fault. But um, or no matter what one did, it's like okay, there are higher risk factors, but I am not going to tell. I am not going to tell. Okay, men are usually the victims, and then children. But whatever. I'm not going to tell a woman that wore a short skirt and got drunk that being raped was her fault. Higher risk, yes, but was the rape itself her fault? No. Was the fact that she was known for having boyfriends or something like that? No, that was not it. But the victimization, was the victimization.
Yeah.
could bring up a better example than that, but that's the sort of thing. It's like,
well, I got the point across.
but the brutalization is like, okay, people go crazy, and sometimes that's what's meant by brutalization. But brutalization is when you're abused into becoming an abuser, basically. So you can be beaten half to death and not be brutalized. Brutalized is when it turns you into a monster, and largely that's I have heard straight from the mouth of rapists that in a way they wanted done to them what was done to what was done to them they wanted others to are more often than not, it wasn't that they were victims themselves to that degree or something. They were a lot of them are better off than most people in all sorts of ways, but they
they wanted to unleash that was
I,
unleashed onto them.
Whatever. But actually, when it comes to that category, people just want people. Let's be real about it. A lot of people, not that they prefer even the crime aspect. It's that they want what they want, and they're going to get it regardless. Maybe that's just when they're drunk, or maybe that's whatever. But yeah, that's
they want it. They want it, and I know. Tell me about it. That's
I've heard from people. I've heard from people that either because someone messed themselves up, or maybe they were, there is usually a drug factor. But I'm not saying that just because people do drugs, they're going to end up doing all sorts of worse things. That's not true. And I don't say homosexuals either, even though the crime rate's higher and all that other stuff. It's not. There's a lot of humble, nice LGBT people out there, and one person I interviewed, since his spiritual master, who claimed to be Jesus, decided to allow that. He's now trans, and he's not being mean to meet people left and right and whatnot. But it was the point where you'd think this guy at any time he's going to go on a killing spree or bombing spree or something. Literally, that's what talking to him was like. It's like, he hasn't quite said anything I should tell the feds. Oh, of course, well, they record the internet anyways. But it's like, if I see this guy on the news tomorrow, I'm not going to be surprised. But so there's definitely whether you say it's right or wrong, there's definitely worse things out there.
Definitely, man.
And that's the thing messed up about our society. It's like, for some statute crime versus real predators, you're going to let the real predators go, but somebody who just had the wrong thing in their pocket versus another thing that basically,
And the fact it's a money system in the first place, you know what I mean? It's like they are making money off of people being in prisons, so it's kind of.
Oh, it's. Well, look at what happened. What happened before it was the big drug trade and whatnot. It's like you had to wander. It's like I've people out in Texas and stuff. There's a plant that you can make meth from, and the animals sometimes eat it and get cows sometimes eat it and get high and that stuff like this. But apparently cows might not be nice on meth too. But
mad cows.
But people are saying, how can a loving God do this? You have to spend all night chewing these leaves or whatnot. It's like, that's what it was like. You only had enough drugs to heal people and to perform the ceremonies. You didn't lay around all day doing drugs every day. That was not how it was done. People just got to learn to accept that. You had to go out in the forest and spend,
time doing other stuff too. You can't just sit there being.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually the kind of that tarot reading that you did for me. That kind of made me actually have that exact thought about just sobriety even more. I'm pretty much sober, but I could cut back on a few things and just making it so instead of being in a chariot hoping that it's the thing guiding, knowing I have the power and I can just be me. So that's pretty cool.
I guess it's coming up more because I'm worried about a particular individual, and so more than usual.
Oh wow, well yeah, but still,
yeah.
I mean that's crazy. Both things, man. It's for you and for me. That's a 1-2 tarot reading for two, man. But
Well,
hey, oh, I'm
that
sorry. I was just gonna say I got probably like one more question, and then I gotta go make some food and get the dog on a walk.
I'm sorry. I've oh, I get okay.
Oh, dude, no problem. This has been awesome. I honestly, I appreciate us being able to talk for as long as we've been able to. It's fantastic. Time just flies by when you talk. Like, actually, enjoyable conversation. Time flies. So thank
yeah,
you.
yeah. Well, whether these are 15-minute things or longer things, I've talked to you as much as I've talked to you right now. So I I didn't really get through my questions, but I don't know which one I'm going to. Um, outside, let's narrow two into one. Outside of this physical incarnation, what do you believe? The before and after sort of thing. What's your belief or experience regarding that? Or
I'm definitely. I used to think there was a judgment, and then because of the Egyptian pantheon and the Christian pantheon, I thought that was the case. And then I also thought that there was a case where there you could just go wherever you want, like kind of what Coating said. And then I thought everything is possible. And as soon as I leave this incarnation, I'm gonna have my spirit guide with me, and he's gonna say, "This is the situation," and he's gonna guide me somewhere. I don't think that there's just a heaven and hell. I think it's almost impossible to say there's just this and that. I think it's infinite. So I think it's infinite possibilities, and that's also why I'm interested in some soul travel because I want to go see the possibilities.
well, you could kind of see it. Some put it kind of in between. It's like the East and the Middle East before it gets turned into certain, particularly the Christian side, is that you die, you start to know. So it's like you get your own book, and on top of that, your crystallization of consciousness occurs. You know, you go to God saying, "I'm a sinner," and oh, sinner, huh? You know what I do with sinners, don't you? It's like, whoop, whoop, whoop. you know,
Yeah,
uh, so this downcasting people, I would hate to be in that position where basically you put yourself in a hole because you're like, instead of doing your best and trying to undo some stuff here and there, and but
yeah.
yeah, I don't think when it's over you can fool yourself.
Oh yeah, I definitely think once you'll know exactly. You go into that knowing.
Because I've talked to people, and it's like they have these moments. People have these moments, but they let them slide. But when you die, those moments that you realized what you were meant to realize, that's going to be there, and all this other stuff. It's like, well, I know I tricked myself. I'm a fraud, and this, that, and the other.
That's why you have to
But
be authentic with your soul. I really feel like that. Otherwise, you can have those regrets. So as long as you are able to make every action you do, you understand and you're happy with it, and you like really understand you have to take that to your grave. I think that's then you'll feel good. It's when you go to the grave and then you have this I wish I would have or wish I wouldn't have.
um,
So
if you'll indulge for a few more minutes, maybe we can get the other ones out quickly. I don't know. But we
yeah.
both leave time or something. The Okay. When you do the right thing or the correct thing or whatever term you would prefer for that, are you more likely to do out of love of doing good or pleasing God or the person itself, personal enjoyment or pleasure, hope, fear, or hate?
Wow. That's that's pretty deep. Definitely not out of fear, nor hate, nor to make a god or something pleased. It just feels natural. I think when you try to do something and it's not natural, like let's say I'm going inside of a store and I grab someone's cart for them and it was like natural, yes. If I'm sitting in my car waiting and waiting and waiting and then so I can get out at the perfect second, that might be something, but I think it's just going in the moment. So to do an action for someone else, I mean, you could always come back down to psychologically saying even doing something good for someone else releases dopamine, therefore everything we do is a selfish act. We could go down to that level. But for myself personally, I think it's just out of doing what I'm supposed to do, and what I'm supposed to do, divine things occur. You know, you might save someone's life by pushing their basket in, bro. Like, just being in the
Well, I
moment, being present.
well the thing is, well, when you're in the moment, it varies exactly what it is. Fear and shyness are, I guess, the most primal drives of the human being, but it's not let you cower in fear and guilt and shame and all this other stuff. But sometimes that's it, and sometimes it's a loving thing. And but I don't think that I have to hate beings. You know, hate
Yeah,
is I'm cool with hate. Don't get me wrong, I'm cool with hate, but I don't feel like I have to. There's beliefs and actions or something I might hate, but not the people. I don't hate per se paths. I am, you know, as I'm not anti-Christian. I definitely see all sorts of good and truth and whatnot in the path itself in certain individuals. But what defines it as Christianity, I'm not for that. I'm not for a lot of the stuff. But you know, so
yeah,
even even even,
exactly.
even in that regard, and I realize that even though there's paths that do it better, people tend to be better than nothing.
Yeah,
Statistically, the vibe you get from people, or however you're going to define it. Okay, the what do you believe about deity? Any limit you ascribe or favorite attribute or
deity. Like, what do I think of deity? Do you mean?
well, some people I say that because some people see that as less genderized or whatever than the word God, but whichever word you're going to put on um, that sort of thing.
Source. I'd call it source.
Uh,
I just think that's there's not even an emotion. It just is. Because there's no religion or being. Because they say the aliens made us. Well, who made them? At the end of the day, it comes down to there was nothing, there was something, and then that something, energetic source, which is just all encompassing of everything, which is why it's peaceful because it's within everything, is what God is. And that's what I think God is, because putting a name on it, like saying Yahweh or saying Lucifer or anything like that, I don't think so. I don't think so. That's why I think you can self-deify yourself. Because it's like we all have the divine spark within us, and it's just knowing that we have it.
well, if you look at I'm going to explain this before I access the final one and take the final one. But you see the symbol on my page my little watermark.
Yeah,
Uh, the there's all sorts of things that you can tie it to Native American symbolism in particular. Although I wasn't intending to make it that way, it happened with Enochian magic, as you would say. But the undefiled knowledge and the is the black thing, and the red and silver, as it's supposed to be, is the state of absolute righteousness, as it would be called. Some people will, I guess, would give it a different name because righteousness has some tinge of something to them that they don't want. It's like self-righteous. Well, you're supposed to consider yourself as on the right. You should put yourself in that position, but um, it sounds because of the connotation in relation to some people, it's going to sound arrogant or something.
yeah,
Just like
yeah.
anathema. Oh yeah, I'm fine being anathema. Um, but yeah, like how to stop this from dying and possibly the wait, what was that? Well, I don't remember what I'm saying this right now.
Then I can't even say it. The Napatha.
Anathema, yeah, something like that. But like, do you feel like there's anything that's be difficult to do as part of your spirituality, or that you wouldn't do?
Oh, that I wouldn't do, or that would be hard. I used to say I wouldn't put a blood on a sigil, and I ended up doing it. Um, I guess I wouldn't ever. Obviously, I'd never sell my soul because you can't sell your soul. I don't know. I don't even know if I'd do a pact, to be honest, because I mean, a part of me is like, yeah, you could, or you can just maintain a relationship. So I guess in a sense, it's almost like that. I don't know. I don't. I want to kill anyone. I definitely want to kill anyone. I mean,
Well,
if someone's
I would distinguish between murder and whatever. If I have to defend myself, yeah, I
that's
can
it,
consider that part of
true.
my.
That's if I have to defend myself and we're inside of a battle and it's
Yeah,
getting crazy, then all means whatever or swords.
yeah,
Hopefully it's
take
swords.
someone else or something. But yeah, it's
Not sacrifice, like, but I would never like go kill someone and be like, oh, sacrifice for this order, hooray! Yeah, I'm not gonna do that. You ain't gonna catch me there.
well, there's for example, I mentioned I mentioned, well, I was going to go somewhere to this. North Carolina has more sites named after the devil than anywhere else in the country, and I was going to go to North Carolina and investigate some of them, and the but anyways, up in North Carolina, there's organizations, or a organization for the most part, really, it's all that literally puts out stuff that you want to join the police, you want to join the army, so you can dedicate your kills to the Dark Lords,
Oh, it
or
actually says that on there to the Dark
and
Lord.
and stuff like that coming out. Some it's not so explicit, but it's really sort of the same organization, more or less, um, that's driving the whole thing. Infidel arms
Wow.
and all this stuff. But yeah, literally getting weapons used in by police and military and stuff like this. So yeah, yeah.
That's crazy.
It's like the accident. So one of the hints that Crowley did in the Book of the Law, well, I mean, say these entities gave him, was that the accidental blood. It's like, okay, if it's accidental blood, if you're sacrificing and that's including your food or something like that, this is this has a power that these, you know, very specifically get an animal just to kill or something. There's more power in the monthly cycle of a woman. There's more power in the accidental. Well, they don't quite say it this way, but that's one of the secrets too. Is the accidental blood. Yeah, why not? Why not use that if you're the blood for your food anyways? You know.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Like, if I was to like have my own chickens and have eggs and all that, well, before I'd kill it, and I either do like a prayer over it or use the energy for something. And that's why most of the food that we eat has
It's
low
like
energy.
it's like 50, 100 yards away from where I am at the moment. You know, a neighbor got sick, and I wish I knew we had you know, there was like some unspoken rule that it 8 weeks of those chickens ate weeks of my food. I wish I would have known that I just had full range to just, oh, I could eat whichever I wanted. Okay, I would have I would have filled the freezer. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And, wild animal dogs in the neighborhood and wild animals killed off most of them. And it's like, but anyway, so I had this chicken flipped up. I I know cutting off the head causes 3 times the pain, but I didn't want to do that, and it's very difficult when you grab the chicken, which is not as easy, which is not always as easy to do as one might think, um, and then cats surround you. Boy, do those things fight when they're surrounded by cats. But the but no, you pick them up, you start chanting, and still, like dead still and calm, and that's why all these and you see it done with other animals. I haven't personally done it with goats or sheep and stuff like this, but you see people that, you know, yeah, you see it done right, and those animals still themselves. So it's not, and all these people swinging saw blades and electrocuted animals and all these other horrible ways to die, and people are saying, "Oh, sacrifice." No, The sacrifice tends to be, now there are cruel methods of sacrifice, don't get me wrong. There's a Central Asian group that kind of basically tries to keep the blood from falling, and and another group that's over there that actually bites parts of the animal while it's still alive, and
Oh God, that's
and,
brutal.
and some
That's brutal.
stuff that's kind of, but you can be super humane with it, with doing all that stuff. But the thing that I thought was, yeah, okay, even going to the bathroom you can somehow include, but the half the toilet meditation stuff where you're combining your kitchen and your bathroom, or you're chanting out. I've encountered people that it's like, it freaks me out when someone's performing rituals over the toilet. Not calm yourself, man. This is a public restroom. It's like, I don't know what you're saying. But yeah, that's not something I would personally involve myself in. But seeking refuge before entering the bathroom, or and cleaning up as part of a ritual. Yeah, I do that regularly. But yeah, there's some, you know.
Oh,
But
well,
yeah,
hey,
yeah. Well, we've got through my main questions, and I just had a few more minutes, so that's
hey, yeah, I appreciate that. That's awesome. I mean, I appreciate you us reaching out. We gotta actually do this, and yeah, we'll definitely have to stay in touch and everything else. And I'm gonna link your video on my video, and then we'll just whatever, so that we can be able to get some more subscribers and people to hear this stuff, because I think this is intriguing and also really fun. So I appreciate it. Thank you, Jafar.
well,
Seriously.
well, I'll click the stop, and I'll